Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit, and this is our draft preview show because the draft is tomorrow. I am so excited.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a long time coming. This draft, it feels like we're just around the corner. It's always such an exciting time of year because it's the one time of year where all teams have hope. This time of year is the team where all teams have hope, outside of the Carolina Panthers, who have no way of making their team better at all until the third round.
Well, for me, this could be an amazing draft, or this could make me like fucking hate my life because if they walk away with fucking Drake May, I may just like leave and never watch football again.
Yeah, there are a few teams that are. This is a totally pivotal draft, right? Like this makes the Bears franchise for the next couple of years. Basically, this decides the how. This decides the destination of the Bears franchise for the next 5 years at least, right? This draft, when you're drafting at 1 and you're drafting at 9. The Commanders, it's an integral draft for them. I don't actually think it's that integral draft for the Patriots. Really,
No,
I don't think this decides
way.
much. They're fucked no matter what happens. They're the place where no quarterback wants to go, right?
That's why
if you're the third quarterback, you're fucked.
That's why I think it's a big smokescreen with them saying they won't move out of 3 because you need so much more than a quarterback. And if you put a quarterback on that team, you're just going to get them killed anyway.
Well, we learned that about the Panthers last year, didn't we? Like the Panthers were the prime example, but there's been so many more examples of that. But the Panthers last year were the example of.
I will still argue to this day, Zach Wilson is a product. I'm not saying he'd have been great, but he's been better than what he is. And the Jets fucking ruined that guy. So we'll see what Sean Payton can do with him.
Yeah, we can say the same about Sam Darnold as well, and we'll see how if Sam Darnold.
We're going to find out.
We're going to find out. It looks like they're starting Sam Darnold, right?
I hope they play him the whole year.
Yeah, I hope they play him the whole year. I think it would be smart. And then the final team that's an integral draft for, like, decides their franchise history for the next at least 5 years, is the Minnesota Vikings.
And all the rumors, I want to hear your opinion because I am way too close to this. And I find it okay. We all know everything that comes out a day or two before the draft is just horse shit. But
yeah,
the new thing is the Vikings are going to trade Justin Jefferson to move up for a quarterback.
They don't need to do that. Like I don't think they need to do that.
If you can trade to 2, I would do it. But I want 2 and your second round pick for Justin Jefferson.
And you don't give up any firsts?
No. He's easily a 3 first-round player. So, like...
it's not terrible. Like, again, if that's the deal on the table, I don't scream and shout about it, but I do think that's a big gamble for the organization, right?
Well, it is, but with the way Jordan Addison played, right? Like, with the way Jordan Addison played, and if you can get up to get Jaden Daniels, who I think is the best quarterback in the draft, I say you do it. Other than that, I don't think it's worth it at all. And I think it's a wild thing that everybody's saying it. And Justin Jefferson's tweet 2 days ago makes it sound like him and the Vikings got a deal done.
Yeah. I hope you guys have got a deal done because by the sounds of what Jerry Jones was saying, it means that CeeDee Lamb is basically waiting to see what Justin Jefferson gets. And then it'll come in a little bit lower than that. But yeah.
Well, that Amon St. Brown's contract just came in today, and he's got guaranteed money into the 3rd year.
Yeah, he just got it today. Guaranteed money is the new way forward. Like Dak saying that I don't necessarily want to be the highest paid quarterback, which is all right. Well, and I imagine they've put on a contract on the table, which shows that. But I imagine Dak will be basically asking for all guaranteed money, right? Like that's where Dak is with that. I think Justin Jefferson may get all guaranteed money, or very close to all guaranteed.
That's the thing too, is the Vikings don't usually go past year 1, so it's seeing that guaranteed money into year 2, and probably this is just me guessing, giving him like 10 million guaranteed into year 3.
Yeah. I think they'll give him the money. But
that'd be around 80 million guaranteed.
Yeah, I think that would be the craziest. That would be the craziest draft thing move of all time, right? I actually don't think the Vikings have to do all of that to move up to 2. Like, if I'm the Commanders, I'm accepting 3 first-round picks to move up to 2.
They're set on getting their franchise quarterback, I think. Now the question is it Jaden Daniels or is it Drake May?
Well, that all depends on how much like Jaden Daniels wants to play. If Jaden Daniels falls past 2, the Vikings give up at least 3 first-rounders to move up to 3 to get Jaden Daniels.
If you give up 4 first-rounders, you should just be fucking fired. Like,
yeah. You can't do it anymore.
I'm good with 3 as long as it's not for Drake May. I am fucking good with it. If you're going up for JJ McCarthy, give up 3. But in my head, it's for the Vikings: Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, Penix, Bo Nix, in that order.
Yeah, for who's actually like achievable.
And I don't trade up. I don't trade up for Bo Nix, but I maybe go from 11 to 8 for Penix. But I'm not giving you 2 first-round picks. I'm giving you 1 and some other shit.
I was listening to Joe Klatt today say that Penix is the best down the field passer in the draft, and
I agree.
could be one of the better ones in the league. So he was saying things like the Dolphins have just given 2 of his contract, basically, haven't they? So that's off the board. But he was saying he's surprised because the Dolphins, Michael Penix is a better fit than Tua.
The Raiders, the Saints, and the Raiders. I think there's zero chance he gets past Seattle.
Seattle at 16. Yeah, that makes sense.
And they have an old offensive coordinator from Washington.
Do we want to run through where we think the top quarterbacks are all going to end up? Should we? Are we going to do where we think?
I think we both agree it's going to be Caleb Williams, number 1.
Yeah. Should we do where we think they should end up if teams select, like where we think teams are going to pick them? Or are we doing where we, like, what we would do if we were the teams?
I was looking at it how I think the draft is going to fall, but we can do it any way you want.
Let's do that. That makes sense. So I think it's going to be Caleb Williams at 1 to the Bears.
I agree.
Everybody gets a free one. I wonder what the odds are looking like in Vegas on that happening. Like, because just go put down your house. I mean, you'll probably just make back the door of the house, but at least you make a bit of money on that because it's Caleb Williams to the Bears, right? Unless all that stuff about him not wanting to be a Bear was true at the start of this draft cycle, but none of the sounds coming out of either camp have sounded like that for a long time.
Also, I don't know if you agree. I think you do. I think we all just assume Jaden Daniels is going number 2 to the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff that was coming out last week from the Jaden Daniels camp about not being happy about the visit and all of that. I get that,
but it sounds like their owner Harris is the type of guy who's like, I don't give a fuck if he wants to play here or not. We're drafting him.
We're just drafting him anyway.
So I think sit out, kid. Sit out if you want to. Then I'll call your bluff.
Yeah. I think Jaden Daniels will be drafted at 2 to the Commanders. Is it what I would do? I would call the Vikings and see if they'd give up 3. I would call them up and ask if they'd give up 4, and then I'd take 3.
I have no problem for them giving up 3 to get up to number fucking 5.
Yeah.
So if they want to give up 3, because everybody's like, you can't give up 3 picks. That's the standard. Let's go back and look at Deshaun Watson was traded for 3 first-round picks and a bunch of others. The move up for Trey Lance was 3 first-round picks and some other shit. So if you just give up 3 first-round picks to get up there, I'm good with it.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm the Commanders, I'm calling the Vikings and seeing what they offer, basically, and seeing how I feel about that with the noise coming out of the Jaden Daniels camp and the fact that the Commanders aren't a quarterback away. They're not a quarterback away from winning. But yeah, probably the Commanders are going to take the quarterback at 2.
I don't know if this is true or not, but it sounds real solid that the Patriots love Drake May.
haven't been able to evaluate anything since Tom Brady left. Clearly, is how it looks.
And if you're going to take Drake May, you do have Jacoby Brissett to play the whole season. I don't know what Mayo and them are thinking. I do know that you need a ton of shit though, so a trade back at 3 makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, what I think is going to happen.
I think the Giants move up to 3 and take Drake May.
Then the Giants move up to 3.
I do, but that's just me guessing.
No, that would make sense. That would be a move that makes
sense.
Because
you have to give up less than Minnesota too, right? Because now they're only dropping back 3 picks. They're still going to get one of the top tackles, or they'd be stupid if they went with the top wide receiver, but they can get one of the top guys, right? You can get one of the top defensive guys or one of the top offensive linemen at 6 and be happy if you're a Patriot.
You get Joel if you move back to 6, right? Like Joel is coming off.
He is he used to be the most consensus offensive lineman, and he's not anymore, which I find real crazy. Is that it's very split right now on who they think is the top or who's going to go. And these last ones, they're it's a kid out of Oregon State, Fugaba. The thing is that what you are hearing now isn't what these mock drafters think anymore. It's the shit they're hearing from GMs.
Yeah, this is where I always get a bit like, I don't trust anything that comes out of a GM's mouth this time of year.
Well, also every GM has a different big board, right? Everybody, I think a lot of people think, oh, we see all these mock drafts, that's their big board, and every big board is different, and all 32 teams.
Yeah, this drafted offensive lineman is crazily deep, especially if you include interior offensive linemen. It is crazy deep.
But after like the 3rd or 4th tackle, it drops for tackles.
I think it drops for tackle. It 100% drops for tackle. It's why the Cowboys should draft interior offensive linemen. I'm sure we'll come on to the Cowboys a little bit. But tackle does drop off. Not to this guy can't play in the NFL. It's just it drops off to this guy probably is a 2nd round, 3rd round pick after the 3rd tackle, right?
Yeah, because you're pretty positive what you're getting out of the top guys, and then after that, it's like he could be, right? You know, that's the famous. And what's the old saying? Potential gets you fired. But that's the thing with the Vikings. Yeah. I have this theory: give up 3 first-round picks and go get your guy, because if it works, nobody gives a shit that you gave up 3 first-round picks, and if it doesn't work, you're getting fired anyway. If you don't
with the Vikings
Cousins, you're getting fired anyway.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because most teams who give up 3 first-round picks, that fucks them for 3 years. The Vikings give up 3 first-round picks, that only fucks them for 2. And
plus
that's the 1 year that they're playing under Sam Darnold, and then the 1 year that they're playing, right?
And
so you're not getting sacked off 2 years.
Right, but then you still have $100 million in cap space next year before JJ's contract, but that's still a ton of money, no matter what JJ comes in at, right? You know, and if they give JJ all that money, I could see a couple wild void years at the end to eat up some of that. Well, the salary cap is rising, and
it'll be some sort of weird like $30 million deal, but in reality, his cap hit never goes over 23 or something.
Right?
Like
that they'll figure out something. Yeah. Correct. Or they'll structure it to where they can automatically restructure it without even talking to the player.
Yeah, it's like Tyreek Hill is mad. Like Tyreek Hill is, what is it? He's like Tyreek Hill looks like he's getting paid crazy money, but he's actually only getting paid 22 mil.
But next year it's crazy, next year it's up to 45. So that's the wild. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but they've got like the void. They've got so many void years added on the end of Tyreek's that they can just like mill it out for a long old time. Where do you think that? So we've got the Patriots. I think I agree with you. I think the Patriots will probably draft Drake May at 3.
And even if they trade out, I still think that's where Drake May goes, unless it's the Vikings. I think, but I could be just wishful thinking. I think the Vikings are sold on JJ McCarthy and Kevin O'Connell's offense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is a good fit. That's also the biggest thing about drafting quarterbacks, right? It's all about fit. Like the whole thing is about
fucking fit. Want so bad do I want JJ McCarthy.
If Jaden Daniels falls to 3,
I just assume I just assume if you're the Commanders and you don't want to be dysfunctional, you just take Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got Drake May at 3. The next quarterback on the board, I think we're pretty consensus, is going to be JJ McCarthy, right? Where do you think JJ McCarthy is going to be selected and who
5.
by? I agree. Go on. Go off.
5 or 7. How. But I don't think you wait till 7 to trade in case. Unless the Giants do what I said and they move up, you can't wait. If they move up, then you might be able to wait. But this is what I think. And Albert Breer brought this up, and this makes so much sense to me. Jim Harbaugh looks at quarterbacks like his son.
Yeah.
Who would you rather send your son to play for right now if he's a quarterback? And there's no better situation in the NFL, all the talking heads agree, for a rookie quarterback than Minnesota. The Bears did a lot to make their situation better, but Minnesota is still Kevin O'Connell. You got you got solid right and left guard or tackles. You have a good center, not great, but you have a good center. Ingram started to come on, so your offensive line is set. You got weapons for days. And like I said, I think Kevin O'Connell is one of the brightest offensive minds in the NFL.
And most importantly, you have Sam Darnold for him to sit behind for a year. And so, like, people are laughing and saying, oh, Sam Darnold, like, he was shit. Sam Darnold has been touted up and said that he's a good quarterback from Kyle Shanahan and Sean Payton. Sean Payton wanted him as well. Like, look at the coaches that won him. Like, he's clearly a decent quarterback. Like, the Vikings would have a failure of the season if they didn't at least make the playoffs with Sam Darnold at quarterback, which is why you're sitting your guy, right?
The talking heads have us picking in the top 5 next year. So they're like, take their next year pick. It's going to be a top 5 pick. I'm like, all right, I don't see it.
I don't see it. I don't get it. And I think it's an old adage with the Vikings that their defense is slow and old. It's because it's not. Like, did you watch? It's like all talking heads do this. I was talking to some guys who are Bears fans about this as well. Bears fans have got them drafting Dallas Turner at 9. And I'm like, if the Bears take any defense at the start of this draft at all, it's a failure. It's a total failure.
Ooh, I disagree.
After acquiring Sweat, Dallas Turner isn't making it past 8 to the Falcons anyway.
I think people are going to kill me for this take. Byron Murphy is now in the league of Aaron Donald when it's all said and done.
That's crazy. Yes, I understand. I understand what you mean. It's not a terrible thing. I think through the crapshoot of the thing, if I'm looking at the Bears, I'm looking at since Sweat was acquired, they only gave up 17.9 points a game. Since Sweat was acquired, and they went 3-2. If you're not winning, if you're not winning those games and also you've got to remember that they had one of the most sacked quarterbacks. That could be down to Justin Fields as well, but we'll see. They've also got a new quarterback. They need to learn from what happened with Justin Fields. I'm taking an offensive tackle there because you get the second best offensive tackle if you're the Bears.
Here's my argument, and you can tell me what you think. So in the league right now, I would guess there's 20 to 25 DNs that are good to great, 20 to 25. 3 technique D tackles, there's maybe 3 or 4. And the fall off from tier 1 to tier 2 is huge. On DNs, the top 5 guys to the bottom 20 isn't as big as a gap. Like, you can find edge rushers. That 3 technique that can disrupt everything, like an Aaron Donald, a Warren Sapp, of Chris Jones, they're just not, you don't get them. And I think that's what Byron Murphy is. So because of the huge drop off when it comes to the league with D tackles, I think if you have the chance to get a blue chip defensive tackle, you fucking take it. You just take it and you run with it.
I don't hate the evaluation with Byron Murphy. I'd rather, if I was them, Roma Dunze or a Malik Neighbors if he falls that far.
I feel like you can get better receivers in the second round than you'll ever find a D tackle.
Yeah. I just think their defense was good enough, and their offense was their problem. And
with that
you need
argument,
the quarterback to look as good as possible.
So with that argument, Christian Watson was drafted in round 2. Drake London was drafted in round 1. If they could do it all over again, that would be flipped.
I like Drake London. I'm a big Drake London fan. That's why.
Well, that's kind of why I used it, but it is a good.
Yeah, I think with Kirk Cousins, he'll look. I think with Kirk Cousins, he'll look fantastic this year.
It's rough when you're playing a tight end at wide receiver.
I think tight end's one of the most underrated and undervalued positions in the.
If you can block, absolutely. I'm not sure that we're counting that in there, but
sorry, back to quarterbacks. Yeah, the talking heads have got this thing where they're not going off like the last games of the season. They're taking whole season stats. If you look at the Vikings' whole season stats, I kind of guess why you would say that, because of like the crazy start to the year with all the fumbles and like the defense just didn't look right. But now Brian Flores has got that defense firing, and it was one of the better defenses in the league coming to the end of the year. And then you've got rookie quarterback. Well, you've got Sam Darnold, rookie quarterback backing up, best wide receiver in the league, best wide receiver 2 in the league, one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. Like what?
And they brought in a ton of defensive players during free agency, young defensive players too.
Yeah, if I'm the Vikings after drafting quarterback, I'm also looking at maybe a no tackle, but basically defense from that point on, really.
Yeah, they need a corner and they need a D tackle, just like everybody in the league needs a D tackle.
If you trade Justin Jefferson, you probably get Byron Murphy with the 11.
I did think about this, right? And then you grab a corner at 23, and then you get, because in my world, I'm getting the 2nd overall pick in the 2nd round too, and then I'm going offensive guard, but that's just a whole.
Interesting. It is interesting. The draft is such a crapshoot.
At first, I was like, hell no. But then when I thought about it, if you could get up to 2 and what you could do, it's a different. But
so I look at the players and like what you've got.
Where do you have JJ McCarthy going? Because we'll get to him, but Daniel Jeremiah has him at 4 to the Vikings. I do not believe, unless you drop the farm to him, I don't think Arizona's moving out. They want to get Kyler a number 1 guy.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk maybe about, the teams with the most desperate needs, and the Cardinals are a team with the most desperate need for any weapon on the offensive side of the ball for Kyler to throw to. And I agree with you. After hearing the reasoning, which is the same you heard from Albert Breer, I heard it from Joe Klatt as well, who said that Harbaugh is going to. He was kind of saying, if Harbaugh had the opportunity to draft him at 5 and wouldn't get sacrificed in terms of the cap and in terms of the fan base for getting rid of Justin Herbert, he'd be quite tempted to have AJ McCarthy.
You only eat that real huge cap number this year, and they're already going to suck.
Yeah. So it's such an interesting thought.
I'll give you 3 first-round picks for
Justin Herbert.
And I'll deal with the cap ramifications later if I'm the Vikings.
Yeah.
Actually, if that happens, I might actually trade Justin Jefferson, because you couldn't carry Herbert's number and Justin Jefferson's cap number.
You have like 100. You have 100 mil. You could carry both.
But as soon as you grab fucking Josh Herbert, or as soon as you grab Justin Herbert, right? That's almost 40 million eaten off of that. And then you turn around and give another 30 to Justin Jefferson. Now you don't. So if I could give up, maybe Harbaugh would want to trade Justin Jefferson for Herbert, and then he could
make sure he gets JJ McCarthy, right? And I was hearing that, and I was like, I
would trade Justin Jefferson, and I love Justin Jefferson.
So I was listening to that, and I was like, I get where you're coming from, man, but I don't believe that would happen, and 2, I don't think that's a good idea. So yeah, I think the Vikings will be taking JJ McCarthy at 5. I think they'll be trading up to 5. I imagine the deal is already on the table, and both teams are sitting waiting to see how the chips fall. But as soon as the clock hits the Chargers, if nothing else has happened, we know that the Vikings will be trading up to the Chargers. I think that's why.
What makes me nervous is the Giants move up and grab JJ McCarthy instead of Drake May, and Drake May starts to do this free fall, and then I get fucked and stuck with Drake May.
And then that's when you're really happy that you've got Sam Darnold. You don't move up for Drake May. Do you draft Drake May at 11? I know the Vikings will draft Drake May at 11.
They keep saying it, but see, Kevin O'Connell was quoted saying, I can fix the bottom half of a quarterback. You cannot fix the upper half of a quarterback. And I feel like that was a shot at Drake May, but that could just be my feelings. And they're all like, well, they got McCown there, and McCown coached him in high school, so it's a done deal. It's like, if we tried to play that game of who coached who and where and when they cross paths with each other, right?
All of these guys are doing so many reps now and so many like camps and all of that kind of stuff that you just have immediate crossover. I would take Drake May at 11 because like the upside on Drake May, I think, is higher than the upside on Penix and Bo Nix. Okay.
Is the upside better than Penix? Like, I don't get why people say that, because when I watch Drake May, I see Jay Cutler.
Yeah, I still think Jay Cutler had some upside.
He was all right, but like, are you trying to save your franchise like with Jay Cutler? You know?
Yeah, he's arguably the best. I don't see Josh Allen. When people say Josh Allen, I'm like, no, I don't. I keep
hearing Justin Herbert. My neighbor keeps telling me it's Justin fucking Herbert, and hey, Chad, if you're watching. But like, fucking, they keep saying, and I'm like, he's Jay Cutler. He is not Justin Herbert. Like,
I didn't see it at all. Okay. If JJ McCarthy is off the board, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams, will the Giants take a quarterback at 6? No, I don't think so either. I think they'll ride with Daniel Jones from that point. So next quarterback off the board will be
Michael Penix. And that's either at 12 or 13, if you ask me. They may move up, but it'll either be to Denver or the Raiders.
The one team, actually, that I think will take Bo Nix over Penix is the Broncos. I think the Broncos would take Bo Nix over Penix.
See, I don't, but I wouldn't be shocked. You know what I mean? Because actually, my comparison for Bo Nix is Drew Brees.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. Like the way that he plays, Bo Nix is.
I wouldn't hate Bo Nix in Minnesota at 11 either.
Yeah. Bo Nix.
But that way, I don't have to give up. And I keep hearing Vikings fans go, "No, you draft him at 23." No, you don't. If you like him, you draft him at 11. You do not risk losing your quarterback.
Fuck around.
Yeah,
you don't. Fuck
around the old saying, "Fuck around and find out." That's exactly what would happen.
Yeah, you don't fuck around with that. This tankathon, but have got Michael Penix going to the Vikings at 23, but they don't do any trades, so that's why that would happen. But Penix, for me, doesn't get past the Raiders 100%. I think the Broncos will take Bo Nix, and I think the Raiders will take
taking Raiders 13, Penix.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix will. I think the Broncos will take Bo Nix at 12, and I think the Raiders will take Penix at 13. I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks might trade up, offer the Jets something to trade up to get Penix as well.
Yeah, I was saying that to you earlier too. Like, I don't think Penix gets past 16.
Yeah. I think the Seahawks, if they want Penix, would have to trade up to go get him. And I'm not sure whether you do that when you've got Geno Smith. All right.
I don't really think people realize that Spencer Rattler's going in the second round.
I think there'd be some teams that would be crazy. Whoever loses out on Penix and Bo Nix out of the Broncos, Raiders, Seahawks, maybe even like the Rams, man. I know the Rams have got other holes to fill to actually go do stuff, but
Albert Breer thinks that Bo Nix is going 19 to the Rams.
That makes sense if he falls, but I don't think either of those guys get past 16.
Do you remember
Is out,
everybody was like, there's no way 6 quarterbacks are going in the first round? And I'm like, they're going to go higher than they thought. And you and I were talking. And now it's like they're going in the top half of this fucking draft.
Yeah, this year you just don't. This year you don't fuck around with quarterbacks because it looks like we've got a good class, and nobody's going to murder you for taking any of these guys. Like that's the thing with the GMs, right? Like sometimes, like I sent you that reaction video of guys reacting to like the draft, and Giants fans when they took Daniel Jones was priceless because it was like the exact opposite reaction I had when the Giants took Daniel Jones. Like I was sat in my chair, like pissing myself with laughter at the fact that they took Daniel Jones. It was it was so good. Had such a good time. But there's nobody like that in this draft, unless you take Spencer Rattler like ridiculously high. There's nobody really like that in this draft. So they're going that high, in my opinion.
Well, I got Spencer Rattler penciled into the Cowboys in the second round.
For the Cow, lovely.
I do. They have to get some leverage against Dak.
Yeah. They do. They really do. And Trey Lance hasn't provided that leverage, it seems. That would mean he has to go past the Rams twice.
They have to cover their ass in case he walks like Cousins.
Yeah.
Which would be the most that'd be the best thing to do because those two are always compared to each other. So it would be the most wild thing for Dak to just walk next year.
Just walk out. Yeah, exactly. Those two are just like considered the same quarterback the entire time. Yeah, I think Spencer Rattler is whoever out of the. So I think the Broncos are taking Bo Nix. I think the Raiders are going to take Michael Penix, which means I think the Seahawks will draft Spencer Rattler with their pick in the second round. Which do they have a pick in the second round? Oh my God, the Seahawks don't have a pick in the second round.
So he's going to the Cowboys.
I think if he doesn't, then I don't think he'll get past the Rams twice. I don't think he'll get past the Rams at 52. So I'll put him to the Rams at 52 then. Or maybe the Browns at 54?
I was gonna make an off-colored joke, but I'll leave it alone. I don't.
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler's a weird one because he's not the same guy we all saw in that fucking reality show, but that reality show in high school left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths about Spencer Rattler. Yeah. So it's really weird when it comes to the fans because everything you hear is he was such a great guy, a good leader in college, was not that high. So I don't know, but the fans have such a bad taste in their mouth from what we saw in high school.
It's also important to note he is the guy out of that documentary that is coming to the NFL. Like that's the other point, right? Behind the Lights, wasn't it? Or QB1? Is that what it was?
Yeah, QB1.
Or QB1 or Under the Lights or something. So one of QB1. Okay.
I think it was QB1.
Was it his year? Because there was a year where it was Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, wasn't it? They were there 1 year, and then that year it was like some guy who went to North Carolina and some other guy. But yeah. I don't think Spencer Rattler makes out of the second round either. I think he'll go to either the Rams or the Browns in the second round.
Would you be upset as a Cowboys fan if he went to Dallas in round 2?
I just think we have so many needs in the actual starting lineup that it would make no sense for me. If we're passing up on a running back, a linebacker, or an interior offensive lineman to take Spencer Rattler.
If you guys draft a running back in the second round, Jerry Jones should just retire from football.
We won't draft hopefully we won't in the second
round. I
already
gave you your picks. I messaged you your picks at running back last week, and it's Frank Gore Jr., round 7.
Yeah. There are some good value guys. I watched him like straight after you sent that, and I was like, yeah, that's a decent value guy. To be honest, I want them to go interior offensive lineman 1, interior offensive lineman 2, linebacker 3, or maybe even whoever's left at tackle at 3, like whatever. That's what I want. But yeah, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad because I understand why they have to do it. If they take Spencer Rattler at 2, it would be the same way that the Eagles took Jalen Hurts in the second round when they had Carson Wentz as quarterback for very similar reasons as well.
All right. Well, Maddie, let's talk some of the most desperate teams, and I'll let you start off with who you think one of the most desperate teams are. And I guess caveat, maybe we should just leave the Bears out of it because they're desperate as fuck at quarterback, but we already know what they're doing to fix it.
Yeah. So there's a few teams that have desperate team needs that if they don't address this in the first round of the draft and they go with the whole best player available and they don't address this, then they're just gonna look shit in any grading that anybody has to do afterwards. So for me, one of the most desperate teams in the NFL are the Tennessee Titans on the offensive line. And then there's been a few drafts recently that have got the Tennessee Titans taking wide receivers for Will Levis and taking this and taking that.
It's not that I think it's the right move. I think their GM's a dumbass.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. So for me, the Tennessee Titans have to draft Joe Alt, offensive tackle.
I think it's the best move.
Yeah, they have to do that. That's what they have to do. It's not what they're necessarily going to do. It's what they absolutely have to do. So yeah, Joe Alt at number 7, Tennessee Titans. What about you, Jay? What do you think? Who do you think are one of the most desperate teams that we're going to crucify in any reaction shows if they don't solve this need?
Minnesota.
Quarterback.
Yeah.
Minnesota quarterback, definitely. I think they have to come away from the first round. They have to come away from pick 11 with a top quarterback, right?
Also, but because that's easy pickings, I will say I would have went with Atlanta needs a pass rusher desperately.
Yeah. I've seen a few kind of things where, Atlanta should move out because they need help over all of the defense, which I don't necessarily hate. I'm not sure who's moving up to 8, apart from maybe the Seahawks to get Penix or their choice between Penix
or the Vikings to get Penix, right? Like I get the quarterback trade, but I think what people fail to realize is if Dallas Turner is what people think he's going to be, a defensive end makes everybody better because they give the quarterback so little time.
Yes, he solves your cornerback issue. Like if you look at the Cowboys, they're prime example. Cowboys secondary getting torched at points. When they picked up Trayvon Diggs, like fine, it all looked better. But once they got Micah Parsons, that's when that secondary has now Deron Bland is getting picks, and that it's because it speeds up the quarterback and having to make bad decisions. And if Dallas Turner is that guy, and this would be the right process because the whole draft is a crapshoot, so we're not 100% sure if he is the guy. He's the most likely defensive end to be that guy in this draft. So you take your defensive edge at 8. If you're the
I'm not mad if they take. I'm not mad if they take Murphy either.
Yeah, or Byron Murphy. Whatever you can do on the
push that whole
line.
front of that line in. If you can get somebody to disrupt the quarterback, so that's a good way of putting it. They need a disruptor on that defensive line. They need something to help the back end out. Like you can draft the best corner in the league. It doesn't matter if he has to cover for 7 seconds. I don't care if it's Darrell fucking Revis in his prime, right? Like Deion Sanders in his prime. He's not covering a receiver for 7 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And especially the way that the league is now, you can't be physical with receivers. You can't, if it's a 50-50 ball, you're going to get pinged with receivers as well. There's some other ones towards obviously,
I can never say his name. I'm not mad about the kid out of UCLA either if you're okay with his medicals, because I think he's actually better than Dallas Turner. It's his medicals that scare the fuck out of me.
Laiatu Latu.
Yeah, Latu.
Latu.
His medicals, though, because he was retired from football because of injuries and then came back.
Because of his neck.
But I think he's better than Turner.
Yeah, watching the tape, he definitely pops more than Turner to me. But if I'm the Falcons and I'm that desperate, I'm going to take the guy that I know is going to I know he's
Let
going to
me
play
ask
the
you
whole
this
season.
though. So let's say the shit, he's got it moved around. But let's say the New York Jets move up, grab fucking Dallas Turner. Do you then, if you're Atlanta, think about going with dude from UCLA?
Well, I take Byron Murphy at that spot, but yes, like I would think it would
Daniel
be between Byron
Jeremiah's
Murphy
got Byron Murphy going 27th.
Oh, well, he definitely won't go 27. He's the one player where I'm like, oh, if the Cowboys don't take an interior offensive line, because I'm going to come to the Cowboys. But if he's there, I'd hope the Cowboys take him. There's also a few guys like fucking Chop Robinson as well. Like, if you're worried about Liatu's neck, then Chop Robinson's kind of there.
Do you know who I think sneakily is in desperate need of a playmaker and nobody's talking about it? It's the New York Jets.
You think they're desperately in need of a playmaker? I think that would be very irresponsible from a franchise building standpoint if they don't take an offensive lineman.
I think they did enough in the offseason. They're getting injured guys back. They made moves. I think like if you take the guys they've drafted, they developed, they brought back in from injury, I think, yeah, let him know. Let him know, Montana. Let him know. Okay. Shout out to Montana. And you guys, make sure you tune in at 4 Central, so 5 Eastern for Well Beyond the Arc, Montana. And David will be killing it, and they get to talk about their Lakers. Okay.
Yeah, how did it feel when LeBron missed the most wide open three of all time?
I can't talk shit. My Bucks got slapped last night, so I can't. They got slapped. I literally turned the game off in disgust. So
I'm all good. The Mavs, I'm all good. The Mavs won, and Kristaps Porzingis, like I predicted at the start of the year, is the difference in Boston this year.
So now,
just saying.
Daniel Jeremiah has the New York Jets trading up to 5 to get Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think that happens. I think they go Brock Bowers in their spot, but that's just me because, again, you're taking a tight end who is going to be fucking elite from day one. I don't care what anybody says. This kid is going to ball out from day one, and he can block. He does not get credit, but he can block.
Yeah, people are terrified of what happened with Kyle Pitts, right? Like that's like people are like, oh my god, we thought this guy was this guy.
I like him better than I liked Pitts coming out of college, but I will still argue as much as I joke about Pitts. He had nobody throwing him the ball, the poor fucking guy, his whole career.
Yeah, we'll see. I think we'll see Pitts. I think we'll see Pitts for the first time this season, and it's fucking like. You shouldn't draft him in your fantasy team. You just know it. You know you shouldn't draft him in your fantasy team, and you fucking do it anyway. And I think you're actually going to get rewarded for it this year because Arthur Smith's not going to be there to use him as a decoy, and he's going to actually have somebody to throw him the ball.
This is why I want the Vikings to have JJ McCarthy so bad. He is an athletic Kirk Cousins.
See, I love that. Dak is the black Kirk Cousins. JJ is the athletic Kirk Cousins.
Well, because he's athletic, he reads the defense, he's smart, right? Like gets the ball out quick. The only knock on Kirk Cousins ever was he's not athletic. I think JJ is like underrated athleticism and throws well on the run, always has his eyes downfield. So I like him in that Kevin O'Connell offense. I think he's perfect.
Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense. I've gone dark all of a sudden.
Well, it's on you now. Who's the next team you think is in desperate need of something?
So the next team that just immediately pops off. I'm not going to talk about any teams that need quarterbacks. The next team that to me just pops off is the Cowboys need to sort out their offensive line. Like the Cowboys have some very glaring needs in their starting 11. They're hate them, toxic relationship. They're a Super Bowl contender still. Like they're a Super Bowl contender if they get this draft right. Like, because they've got holes in their starting 11 now. They're the only team that are like a Super Bowl contender that has glaring holes. They need interior offensive linemen. I'd ideally like to replace Travis Steele, our offensive tackle, but I actually think if they come away with Jackson Powers Johnson to play center, or they come away with Graham Barton to play center, then that's a good first night for them.
Well, I got 3 teams that need the same thing, so I don't know if you mind, but I was going to jumble these all together for this.
I'll go for it.
Okay, so I have Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and Buffalo all desperately need a receiver.
Oh, I was like, what's he going to say? Receiver. As soon as you put Buffalo in, I was like, yeah, definitely need. You can also chuck the Kansas City Chiefs in with that, actually.
I was going to, but I have so much faith in Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I'm like, they don't really need.
That's fair. That's fair. But let's remember, they did have Rashid Rice last year. And they're not going to have him for large swathes of the others yet.
Well, I read a rumor that they really like Brock Bowers, and if you could put him with Kelsey, and then like
just be
2 tight ends, wide receivers, that would be sick. And Kelsey's getting older, so you got the heir apparent, and who better to learn from than maybe the greatest of all time?
What's the deal that takes you from 32 to 10 though?
I don't know, but they went up from 27 to 10 for Patrick Mahomes.
27 to 10 for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I'm not saying they'll get him, but I read that they love this kid. So that's a scary thought in Kansas City. But I think those 3 teams, Indy, Jacksonville, and there is rumors out there that we may have a T. Higgins trade tomorrow to either Indy or Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's the other things that we're looking out for, aren't we? Because they just leave all of the things right now till draft day now, because you may as well see where the chips fall and
you want to make sure kind of if you're trading T. Higgins, you want to make sure the guy you want is at the spot you're trading him to, right? So, and they'll never trade him to Buffalo. They will never trade T. Higgins to Buffalo.
No, that's
why I think 5 is a perfect spot for Minnesota, because the 2 other teams who need quarterbacks behind them are both in the West with the Chargers, and that ain't happening.
Yeah, definitely. And they can put a much nicer package together than the Giants. Like, by the way, just to move back to the Minnesota trade.
No, go ahead.
People are really underestimating the fact that your new head coach, in the year that he comes out of college, where he's going to be the best placed evaluator in the entire league, is going to get 2 first-round picks. Like, if he trades with the Vikings, he gets 2 first-round picks on that draft where he's immediately comes out of college.
And do we not think that he's going to, and I don't care that they have Justin Herbert. Have we watched him everywhere he's fucking coached? You run the ball. You run the ball. They're going offensive line. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Like, they are not drafting a receiver. They're like, they could get Marvin Harrison Jr. And I guarantee you, even though he played against him and he knows how good he was at Ohio State, that is not Jim's philosophy. He is going to run the ball.
Yeah, should we talk about, because the Chargers are actually a team with a lot of needs, and the Chargers are an interesting team because they probably, if we're right, they're probably walking away with the 11th pick and the 23, right? So at 11, one of their needs,
they might even end up with one of our 2 fourths. I don't know.
Yeah, the 11, one of their needs is O-line, as it always is with the Chargers, no matter what they do, and they get run grading Olufashnu, who is the best run blocker in the entire draft. Like, Olufashnu, best run blocker in the draft, just pancaking people and running them over in the run game. They'll take Olufashnu at 11, and then they become really interesting at 23, where they can sit and they can take a corner, they can take another interior offensive lineman if they want to. Like, I'm sure they can get Jackson Powers-Johnson. They could probably get Graham Barton at that point as well. And then you have, say you play Olufashnu at right guard, because the Chargers have got their left tackle in Rashawn Slater.
Yeah, Slater. I was just trying to think, because the Vikings tried to move up for him, and I'm trying to remember.
I get him confused because of that draft. I always get him confused with whoever you took a O-tackle in that draft as well.
Christian Darrisaw, who ended up being better, which is wild.
I get them confused every time, because it was like, that was such a crazy draft. But yeah, so then you have Olufashnu at right tackle, and you have Jackson Powers-Johnson at right guard or at center. Like, that's an O-line.
And then at 23, you grab whoever you want, and you still have a ton of receivers in the second round when they're drafting. Because people want to talk about how deep this quarterback draft is. Nobody's talking about how fucking deep this wide receiver is. Yes, there's a drop off after the third wide receiver, but it's not super huge, right? And we're watching, the NFL is different. I just saw Daniel Jeremiah the other day say in the last 5 years, the bust rate for wide receivers is down to like 20%.
It's just because offensive coordinators are so much better at getting them open. Quarterbacks, I think the quarterback play in general is
by the time they hit high school.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I know there's been a lot of shade on the quarterback play recently because there's only 20 starting quarterbacks in the NFL and we need 32. Well, actually, if you put the bottom 20 in other eras, I think they would be like doing totally fine in those eras as well. I think just the top side is better.
To agree with your point, what we don't do either is if you put those 20 on different teams, are they better?
Yeah.
Like, because we've talked about guys who have been ruined, right? Like, what if Mac Jones did go to 49ers? Is he Brock Purdy or better? I say yes.
Yeah, I think he's definitely Brock Purdy.
So, like, I'm just saying, like, if you move these guys around, we're calling busts. Would Zach Wilson have been a bust if he'd have spent his whole career with Sean Payton? Probably not. He might not have been a Hall of Famer or a Pro Bowler, but he's going to be serviceable.
Yeah, just on the other side of that as well, like Carson Wentz wasn't starting for a team last year. In terms of like actually talented quarterbacks in the league, he's at least 21. Like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of actual talent, like Sam Darnold is at least in the top 20.
You and I talked about it. Sam Darnold and then Carson Wentz were the two guys I wanted if Cousins walked to hold the place for a year, because Carson can play. He's just never been a great teammate from what we hear, but I feel like you have to have been humbled at this point if you're Carson Wentz.
Yeah, definitely. And he looked great when he played for the Rams. He was very athletic in that game between Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz. I think should have earned them both starting positions. But Gardner Minshew, he won't be starting. Like, he doesn't always start for a team. Like, there's plenty of players where you go, it's there, right? So the wide receivers now are getting
better than Tua if you put him in Miami. I say no, but I get the argument I hear people say. I'm not mad at the argument.
I don't think they're in totally different stratospheres like they are how they're ranked by big boards and stuff. Like Russell Wilson at points was ranked at 20 last year.
And Russell Wilson at one point in his career was a top 3 NFL quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. So so with that means that wide receivers are obviously better because they've got better people throwing them the ball throughout the teams. And that makes sense. That makes sense to me. So I think if I'm the Chargers, with the amount of needs that I've got, because they have a massive need at wide receiver and at tight end and at O-line and all the way across their defense as well. Like the Chargers are a ridiculous team with how good some of their players are, but how bad they all look together.
Do you want to look at Daniel Jeremiah's mock, and then we can talk about what we agree with, what we don't. And there's some that I didn't necessarily agree with, but I thought, oh, I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, let's throw it up on the screen.
All right, so let me get this. Hey, before I pull this down, if you haven't already, everybody subscribe. All right, there we go.
Subscribe.
So, I mean, we've already went through Caleb. Now, this is the first one, too, that we've talked about that is a little off what everybody says. He has Washington taking Drake May.
Yeah, I think with that, you're then reading into how much was into the Jaden Daniels.
Well, Daniel Jeremiah said that it's because he knows Adam Peters and he thinks it fits what he wants to do, but more.
What, pick a worse quarterback? But okay.
We both agree with that, but these guys see something in Drake May that I don't see. But granted, they were scouts, so
yeah, people are saying that Michael Penix is the most polarizing quarterback in the draft this year. I disagree. I think Drake May is the most polarizing. I just don't think people really have like the balls to go against the grain enough. I think if you sat down and you watch Drake May and his actual tape and you haven't listened to anybody speak about the draft at this point, Drake May would be lower than Michael Penix and Bo Nix.
He's Will Levis last year, I think, if they just went by tape. He's just going to fall down the draft.
Will Levis came out good though. Will Levis,
I didn't mean like comparing them as quarterbacks. I mean comparing them to what would happen in the draft. He would just keep falling. Because they asked Kevin O'Connell why he didn't take Will Levis, and he said because he has unfixable traits.
Yes, and that's what people will see. I don't necessarily disagree that he'll go to the Commanders. That's the thing. Like, just
so as a Cowboys fan, is that what you're cheering for as a Cowboys fan? Like,
I'm fucking begging that
Jaden Daniels around the field.
Fuck this up again.
And then it sounds like from the beat reporters, the Patriots don't love Jaden Daniels, but he's got them taking Jaden Daniels at 3.
Jaden Daniels feels like a very un-Patriots quarterback. You know what I mean? Like the run around play like feels un-Patriots. I think they'll take, because he's got written in his notes here, the Patriots will receive lucrative offers. I think they'll take one of the offers, and that'll be coming from the Vikings probably.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, some people do not have the love for Jaden Daniels, and I'm like, I think this kid's the best quarterback in the draft. So it's wild. So then Daniel Jeremiah has the Vikings moving up to number 4 to take JJ McCarthy. Does he say what they give up? No, as of right now, it just talks about that 11 and 23. I don't know if he thinks they'll give up more or not to get up there, but doesn't really matter because, like I said, as long as it's not 4 first-round picks, if you hit, nobody cares. If you miss, you're all getting fired. At least the GM's getting fired, right? Like maybe you keep Kevin O'Connell, but Kawasi's gone if he doesn't replace Kirk Cousins correctly because he was brought in there to get the cap down, which he did, and find the replacement for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think looking at this, if Drake May passes 2, I think the Vikings will be at 3 and they'll take Jaden Daniels. We've got the move up to 4.
I would hate it, but I would give up 4 first-round picks to get Jaden Daniels.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was like. That's what I thought earlier when you said I wouldn't give up 4. I was like, I'm sure he'd give up 4 for Jaden
I said unless
Daniels.
It was to go up to number 2, but this is kind of going up to number 2 because I'm getting the guy I wanted.
It gets the guy you wanted to. And it only affects the Vikings for 3 years as well. That's important to say. It only affects them for 3 years, not the usual.
And if you look, Kawasi hasn't been that great at his first-round picks anyway.
Yeah, so may as
well. He's been better in the later rounds.
A lot of the time when people move up to 4, they're giving up like second rounders and all that kind of like giving up 4 first rounders. They're also swapping stuff in the second. I'm like, 4 first rounders is enough for any trade.
And Florio made a good point. What people don't look at is every time you draft somebody, it's a trade. You're trading that draft pick for that player. So even if you stand pat and you draft at 11, you're still trading that 11th pick for that player.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's I would give up 4 if I was the Vikings, because that's also for us, and I don't understand how nobody else sees it like this. That's your only hole. Like the only hole is the quarterback position, right?
Yeah, they can upgrade at D tackle. They need to upgrade at O line, but like you're right, that is the one place where it's like if they got the right quarterback, within 3 years they could be competing for a Super Bowl or 2 years.
And with the free agency money. Like with the free agency money that you're sat on, then you can actually fix those other positions and upgrade there as well. So, I think that's a solid move.
I also believe come Monday after 4 p.m., you're going to see Dalton Reisner signed back to the Vikings because it won't hurt their compensatory picks anymore come Monday after 4. I think you're going to see another corner like Xavier Howard signed. So I think you're going to still see more moves by teams who are holding on to wait so they don't lose compensatory picks next year.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well,
this is an interesting move at 5.
The Jets move up and go all in and get Marvin Harrison Jr. I do not hate this. I don't. I think it's wild, but I do not hate it. even though I think he's the second best wide receiver in the draft. But they are saying that Neighbors is hard to deal with. So it could be something that they are like, I'm just not taking Neighbors because he's hard to coach.
Well, if the Jets were thinking that, then they wouldn't have all of the players in their building currently. To me, for me, the Jets need an. I don't like this move. I think it shows like a poor roster building decisions if they do this. They need an offensive tackle. I know they went and got Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith doesn't play. He only plays 10 games a season. 13 games a season.
They picked up 2 tackles in the offseason.
Yeah, one to play right tackle as well. They picked up Moses, didn't they? Who's old as well. Like what they've got is an aging quarterback who's just had to sit out a year with 2 aging O tackles, one of which can't put 13 games together.
And then you can turn around and draft offensive linemen in the 2nd and 3rd round too. I don't hate it. I know you like it less than me.
Okay. Morgan Moses is who they've drafted. I think he played for the Vikings, didn't he? No, Ravens. For me, I think it shows if the Jets did this, I think it shows bad mentality going in. I don't necessarily hate it because of the player. I think it shows to me they're more wanting to be, oh wow, look at us, high flying, greatest show on turf, rather than winning.
See, and I think a guy like this gives you a chance because Rodgers gets the ball out in 2.2 seconds anyway.
I think he is a really good fit for Rodgers. I know you prefer Malik Neighbors as an actual wide receiver prospect.
Not by a ton, but I do. I do because of the way he rips the top off. Yes.
But Marvin Harrison Jr. for me is more Devontae Adams, more picks the right route. Like the route progression is always correct. Like I think for fit, like where he has Malik Neighbors going, I think the Giants are a better fit for Malik Neighbors than they are for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Unless they don't want another hard to deal with LSU wide receiver. Sorry, Odell. I just subliminally took a shot at Odell, which I don't think Odell was as hard to deal with as people think. I just think he didn't want to be in New York.
I think a lot of teams have said that he's not that guy. Malik Neighbors is the most electric wide receiver in the draft. I think Malik Neighbors to the Giants will happen. I think that's who the Giants will take. Malik Neighbors at 6.
Well, your boy Joe Alt goes off at 7 and Dallas Turner goes off at 8, kind of how we were talking.
I think in most mock drafts, that's the 2 that like Caleb Williams and then Joe Alt and Dallas Turner are the 3 that are like seem to be in the same position every time.
I like Odunze. I think the Bears are crazy if they take him at 9 with defensive players still on the board that can make them like that defense scary as fuck.
Yeah, when I was saying about it earlier, this guy's draft that I was looking at and we were talking about, it was Caleb Williams, Dallas Turner, and then defensive player. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like when you learn from what you did with Justin Fields, with the acquisitions of Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, that's going to be their starting wide receivers, right? So for me, I would go offensive tackle here. I'd take Fuaga or Olufashnu here is what I would do if I was the Bears. But
I want them to take
second round wide receivers. Murphy, yeah. I think I'm okay if it's Murphy or Dallas Turner, depending on what the Falcons do.
Correct. All right, well then the Chargers do exactly what we said they are going to do. And with their trade back pick from the Jets, they take offensive tackle.
I think they'll take Fashanu instead of Fuaga. But Jeremiah seems to think that Fuaga is the most physical blocker. But I think Fashanu is the best run blocker in the draft. But I'm not going to split hairs on that.
And then the Arizona Cardinals take Jared Verse, who I think is the best body type for a D end that you can get. He's 6'1", 6'2"-ish, but super long arms. He's fast. He's strong. I think he's going to be a great edge. I think that would be a great pickup for the Cardinals after trading back.
Look, I think the Cardinals get their pick. They probably address weapons later in the draft with the picks that they've picked up, right? So it does make sense to go defense here. If I'm the Cardinals, if I'm Kyler Murray, I'm gutted if I don't come away with a number one weapon.
Yeah, because they're so deep at receiver, you're going to get somebody or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they just have the opportunity to have Marvin Harrison Jr., Roma Dunze, or Malik Neighbors, right? They have the opportunity to get either one of those three guys, and they give it up, which I think would be disappointing. But I understand. And when they're at 11, if the chips fall the way they do, I think at 11 they have a chance of Roma Dunze. And then I think, great pick at 11 if I'm the Cardinals.
One of the reasons I'm not sure they'll trade, though, is they already have 11 picks this year.
Yeah, what are they going to do with all of those picks?
Then you see, though, Denver taking Brock Bowers and passing up a quarterback in Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft.
I think that's a fail for them if they do that. They want to start the year with Jarrett Stidham. Is their plan, right? Zach Wilson?
Or they trade back into the first round for one of those guys. I wonder if that's the thought process, too, for Penix or Nix.
Maybe. That would make sense. Look, Brock Bowers is probably going to be a generational tight end, right? So
Zach
it's
Wilson,
difficult to hate.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's difficult to hate like the pick, right? If it's Brock Bowers, it's difficult to hate when you're getting that good of a player. But look, ride with Zach Wilson, and if he's shit, fine. You end up with Shedeur Sanders next year.
I think Zach Wilson should be your third on the depth chart and see if you can save him. But that's just me.
I would, yeah, exactly. I wouldn't start him to play. He needs fixing. He needs so much he just needs a hug. Like, like after being with that New York media, like the Denver media is so much nicer than the New York media, right? Like the shit that the Broncos had to put up with last year, it still didn't get as ugly as how it gets with the Jets, like sometimes. So, look, I would take a quarterback here. I wouldn't want it. Nobody's going to throw to Brock Bowers.
I don't disagree with you, but then with the Raiders, they have him taking Michael Penix, which we thought would be, and then you have the Saints going with an offensive tackle, which I think is a good move for the Saints because they definitely need it. But I would argue if Bo Nix is still sitting there, you don't think Bo Nix is better than Derek Carr?
Yeah, I mean, if Bo Nix is sitting there, then I get on the phone to the Seattle Seahawks and say, look, I'm taking Bo Nix. You can have him for you can have him for 2 seconds or whatever and do it that way. Because you still probably get your offensive tackle at 16.
And then at 15, the Colts get the best corner in the draft, Quinyon Mitchell.
Yeah. See, now, this is where you are when there's so many offensive players go off the board at the start. It was like Micah Parsons falling to the Dallas Cowboys when he did. Because
the record is 19 offensive players, and they think it's going to be broke in the first round this year.
Yeah, I definitely think he'll be broken in the first round this year. Look, it could be Kenyon Mitchell, who I also think it's Kenyon Mitchell, or it can be Teron Arnold. Yeah, Teron Arnold, who could be the other top corners in this draft. I think it's Kenyon Mitchell. And people are worried about him coming out of Toledo. Sauce Gardner proved that you don't need to be in a massive school to be like one of the best corners in the draft. Like if you're that guy, then you're that guy, right? And so him being at Toledo, I don't think is a problem.
When it comes to corners, a lot of it has to do with their hips. Can they swivel their hips? Can they get out of breaks? Like that's the big thing. And this kid, sounds all Diddy-ish, but this kid's hips are amazing.
Pause.
Yeah, no Diddy. That's the new one. No Diddy.
No Diddy. Is that it? No Diddy.
Yeah. So Seattle takes offensive tackle with their pick at 16, according to Jeremiah.
Difficult to hate.
I don't mind it.
Yep.
Jacksonville gets, some people think is the best corner. So arguably the first or second best corner at 17. It's wild to think that you could get somebody at that position this late, that high of a grade. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. His 40 is what's dropping him, right? But I don't think that 40s are actually the best way to judge a lot of this stuff.
And that was at the combine when he ran at his pro day. He was in the low 4.4s, and it's playing speed, right? So and they have metrics now. Like you literally have video that shows how fast a guy's running. Well, in pads on the field now because they have all the technology.
Yeah, it's like it's like Puka Nacua fell so far, so much further than he ever should have but the Rams knew. The Rams said when they pick him, like, we know that we've got an absolute steal in Puka Nacua because they take the metrics, they take different types of metrics than what everybody else is using, is how it looks, because they say the combine's outdated.
Yes, and that's I think Jacksonville doesn't trade this pick away to Cincinnati for T. Higgins.
Yeah. Since he could be picking 17 and 18. That's always fun when you get 2 picks in the same thing.
And then you got offensive tackle Lamet going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's always looking for offensive line, so I don't think it's a bad idea to protect your guy in Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, when he was injured last year, was like Joe Burrow was injured for so much longer than anybody gave him credit for last year. He looked so, like, they were so much better when they were playing without Joe Burrow because he was injured, nothing to do with Joe Burrow. So I don't hate taking an offensive tackle. I also quite like JC Latham, our offensive tackle. As you say, that the draft is deep, but the drop off is huge between the top 3 guys and then the next lot. But he's still good, JC Latham.
Yep, and then you got Los Angeles going with Latua, edge. Like I said, I think he might be better than Dallas Turner, but the injury scared the shit out of me. But at 19, are you willing to do that? I actually think Daniel Jeremiah is completely wrong, and if Byron Murphy is still there, they replace Aaron Donald with Byron Murphy, but that's just my belief.
I agree with you. If Byron Murphy's still on the board when he gets to the Rams, I think he'll be off the board by the time the Rams walk up to the podium. But if there's a team that we know are happy to take risks to get better, and it often works for them, the Los Angeles Rams are the team, right?
That's why I don't think they've looked so far. That's why I don't think it's crazy when there's suggestions they take Bo Nix.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. Or Spencer Rattler in the second round as well. I don't think any of it's crazy. I think they're so ahead with this kind of thing. Whoever they pick, I'm good with.
And wildly talking about the Steelers, this is a team where at the end of the season, I would have been like, oh, they're so fucked. But now they literally had a great offseason and can take the best player available. So if that's who they think it's Guyton from Oklahoma, good. Go get an offensive tackle.
Yeah, I mean, they can get all exciting and take another wide receiver, but I don't think there's going to be another wide receiver worth taking on the board that high. But yeah, I'm just looking for the wide receivers now. Adonai Mitchell, maybe, but
I think in a perfect world for them, Latua falls to them and they can pair him up with TJ Watt.
Yes, yeah, definitely. The Steelers have had a great year. If their quarterback situation works out for them, like whoever it ends up working out with, then they're a really dangerous team. And everybody's been questioning their ability to build teams and stuff like that, especially in the modern age of football, but they're not that anymore. They're not like those kind of guys anymore. So, yeah.
And now we're going to the interior line where Miami takes Graham, Barton, Duke. I'm not mad at it. Let's protect Tua. Let's get that running game going. He's great off of play action.
Yeah. If you take Graham Barton, then you have both a center or a guard at that point as well, wherever you want to play him. I don't think he's the best interior offensive lineman in the draft. I think it's Power Johnson. What's his name? Jackson Powers Johnson. But that's all good with me because Daniel Jeremiah has got him going to where I want him to go to. So, Graham Barton, good. That's a good pickup. The Dolphins are always in need of offensive line. They're another one of those teams, right, that hasn't been able to develop offensive line.
Philadelphia is taking Nate Wiggins out of Clemson, who I think if he weighed more would actually be the best corner in this draft. It's just his 170 body size scares me.
Yeah, when we were talking about teams that were most in need, I was going to go with the Eagles next, thinking that the Eagles should really be taking anybody in the secondary, really, just to beef up their secondary. And as you say, Nate Wiggins is a great guy to get in there. I'd love TJ Tampa, and I'm sure we'll be talking about him on the second day of the draft.
Yeah, I love Nate Wiggins. He can play man and press. He can play zone. He's fast. He's got great hips, but he is undersized. So let's see when he puts on weight, can he keep that 4.2 speed?
Yeah.
All right, Arizona, Brian Thompson, wide receiver, LSU. They needed it. They traded with the Vikings in this mock, and they got their wide receiver at 23 instead of at 4.
Yeah, so they come away with Verse and a wide receiver. I think that's a good night for them. I think that Brian Thompson Jr. might be the most overrated wide receiver in the draft. Personally, I think he's more of a second, maybe third day guy than Brian Thomas Jr. It's more on hunch rather than anything else. He doesn't pop off the screen for me.
All right, then your Dallas Cowboys are taking Jackson Power Johnson. I know that makes you a happy guy.
I'd be flipping around the room if they take Jackson Powers Johnson as at 24. I'm happy with either Barton or Powers Johnson. Whoever it is, I'm good, but I will be going crazy if it's Powers Johnson at 24.
And then the Packers do the most Packers thing, and they take Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia, which they need to do because they need
an offensive tackle. So that's
and they have no depth there either. So that makes a lot of sense. You got Tampa Bay with Darius Robinson, edge out of Missouri.
Tampa Bay. They had this defensive line that looked so scary when they won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. And then since then, it's kind of fallen off. So a bit of a revamp on the defensive line. I don't hate that either. I think whoever needs defensive linemen they're not taking Byron Murphy before this point. But pick 27.
Arizona Cardinals come away with the best first round of the draft if this works out, because they also get Byron Murphy the second at 27.
Do they have to trade into that spot, or do they just
No, they have 4 and 27 right now.
Yeah,
this is from the move up for Will Anderson last year.
Yeah, of course they are. So yeah, that's a great. They come away with their defensive line is solved. Verse and Byron Murphy, great defensive line, and then depending on. They appease Kyler at least by attempting to bring in a decent wide receiver.
Well, and they still get better. Even if you don't think he's like one of the top guys, he's still a good wide receiver. He's
still better than the nothing that they've got right now. Yeah.
So if that works out that way, I think we'll be talking about them having the best first round of the draft. Buffalo passes up first round wide receiver, and they go with Newton, D tackle, Illinois.
It's probably the right decision.
I like him. He's athletic. I don't think he changes the world, but I do think in their defense, he fits perfectly because he will eat up blocks, and that's what their defense wants him to do.
Yeah, if this is the way that the draft falls, that's probably the right decision there. There's no other guys on the board that I would be taking at 28. I'd be waiting until the second round to pick up a wide receiver.
And then Detroit makes a fuck move, if you ask me. Kool-Aid forgot how to play football this year, and it looked bad. You have to go back 2 years ago to where he looked good, and the fall off scares me because it is drastic.
Yeah, it is pretty mad how quickly the stuff that you were seeing from Kool-Aid McKinstry was exciting, was good, right? And then the fall off has been crazy.
One of the worst I've seen from one season to another.
Yeah, but cornerback coming out of Alabama, very tempting guy. But I think that he would be a very Detroit player.
If I'm them, I take Cooper DeJean, who's going next, according to Daniel Jeremiah, because that dude can ball. It's
almost like everybody knows that the Baltimore Ravens are going to come away with a guy that we say, oh my God, how did we let him fall to there?
Yeah,
that just happens every single year. Yeah. So we just give the teams that are kind of around Baltimore, just before Baltimore, we kind of give them players that we know are worse than the guy that the Ravens are going to pick, because for some reason every single year the Ravens come away with a guy where we say, how do they fucking come away with one of the best corners in the draft? It's so Baltimore. How do they do it every time?
And he can play corner, he can play slot, he can play safety. You can move him all over the field. This kid can fucking ball, and he's fast.
Yeah. Do you know who he kind of reminds me of a little bit? Trent McDuffie coming out. I may be way off on that one.
I'm just kidding because he's white corner, but
Nick Wright was saying that, it'll be the first time that we see a white corner for 5 years. Something like that.
And then San Francisco goes with Chop Robinson, which doesn't surprise me because if you're on the fucking defensive line, they want you.
Yeah, that's the most 49ers pick of all time, isn't it? They actually have some holes in other places, the 49ers, I think, but Chop Robinson, they're gonna take an edge at that point.
Yeah, well, and I think they're a firm believer if you get to the quarterback, it makes up for a lot of sins like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it just makes up for everything. And like when you have a defensive line like the 49ers, unless you have one of the best O-lines in the league. So, for example, the Eagles coming up against them in the championship game the year before last, right? Like, you have to have an Eagles-style offensive line to nullify the 49ers, is how they want to play.
And then we finish out the first round with the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, taking Mitchell, Texas, wide receiver.
Yeah, that makes sense. Take Adonai Mitchell, then your wide receiver starting three is then Adonai Mitchell, Hollywood Brown, and Louis Rees-Zammit, and then you're all sorted, and you're all good for your top three at wide receiver.
Yes, and Daniel Jeremiah said it best when he said that it could have been Xavier Worthy, because I thought Worthy would go before Mitchell, but he is saying that he feels the Chiefs got a better version of Worthy with Hollywood Brown, so that's why they go with Mitchell.
Yeah, it's all about fit. People like move the wide receivers around and say this wide receiver is better than that wide receiver, but wide receiver is so about fit. Like the whole time.
And that's quarterback too. Like we could, and D tackle, right? Those are great examples of some D tackles they need to push the line, some they need to just eat up blocks. Like it depends what kind of scheme you're running. And with the quarterbacks, if you go to the wrong team, you're fucked. So like a lot of it's scheme.
Yeah, and with edge though, edge is one position where it doesn't really matter. Like with edge, if you're a fucking freak on the edge, it doesn't really matter.
If you can rush the quarterback, you can rush the quarterback. That's
yeah. We can, like, the edge's job is don't break contain, and in doing that, kill the quarterback. That's the whole entire point of the whole thing, right? But yeah, good.
And do you know what that means? 0 running backs as expected, taken off the board in the first round.
When do you think will be the first running back taken?
So I didn't do a lot on the running backs. There were some late guys I looked at because the Vikings could pick up somebody late with, having Aaron Jones and Chandler. But from what I'm reading, a lot of these talking heads don't expect anybody to come off till round 3.
Yeah. You get to round 3. Maybe somebody will take one in round 2 who really needs one. Like the Cowboys could take one in round 2, theoretically. I don't think they should. They could. So you get like a Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, Blake Corum. Like there are running backs in this draft, by the way.
There's still a lot of there's still some decent free agent running backs.
Yeah. That's just the other problem. There's just a decent free agent running backs as well. Like who's sat in free agency at the moment.
Well, Maddie, I am so excited for tomorrow. I fucking can't wait. And it could either be the best day I have all year, or it could be the worst day I had all year. So if they end up with Drake May, I am going to be so fucking mad.
If they trade up to end with Drake May, I think if they take Drake May at 11, you're like, okay, things didn't fall our way, but with Drake May's fine, whatever. But okay. Never fucking mind then.
Not for me. Like I would rather have Penix or Bo Nix. That's the thing. Like so. But again, I'm not Kevin O'Connell. So if he takes them, I'm gonna suck it up and go. They know more than me, and I'm gonna get on board and see what happens. But I won't be as excited if they take if they get Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy, I might be dancing in the fucking street.
If they get Jaden Daniels, I want like a reaction video to them taking Jaden Daniels. How are you watching it?
I'm gonna have to turn my camera on if Jaden Daniels doesn't go number 2.
Yeah. How are you watching it?
I'll be watching one TV ESPN, one TV I'll be watching NFL Network, and then I'll have my laptop going and maybe another TV on CBS Sports.
All right. I will just be watching the Sky Sports coverage, by the way. But I'm guessing with that setup, it's watching it at home. I've seen these draft parties that Americans throw, man, and they look like a good time.
I can't do it because I need to focus, but yes, they do look fun. But I'm such a draft nerd. I don't want
zoned in.
Yeah, like I don't do a lot of Super Bowl parties because I want to watch the game. And when you're at a Super Bowl party, you miss a lot of the game because you're talking and eating and having fun. Like I'm weird about that. After though, and it's happened the last few years, after the draft, I go watch Pat McAfee's coverage of the draft.
The drafts are so hard to watch in the UK because it's so late. Like it's so late at night that it's fucking so hard to watch here because it's just like when it's football games, you're like, okay, cool, I can be dialed in. But when it's draft, it's like we take this player, we take that player, and you've got to try and like hold your eyes open. Like,
and I'm such a draft fucking nerd. I live for this shit.
Like, I love it. It's hard to love it that much at 2 a.m. is the only issue. But yeah,
we'll get yourself some good Bolivian cocaine. You'll be fine. Like you make it right.
There you go. There we go. There you go. You'll have to go grab it and ship it over for me.
I don't know why I said Bolivian. It's the one that they always say in the movies is the best. I don't know. maybe just some Adderall. I don't know. I don't know how that works in the UK. Like what street drugs you guys do. Like
I'll probably just do an energy drink, Jay. To be honest, it'd probably be the one that
fair enough. Like Celsius, Bang. What's your go-to? Celsius, Bang. Like what's your go-to for energy drinks?
Monster.
Okay.
I don't really drink them.
Yeah, heart attack in a can. My wife just yelled from the other
heart
room.
Attack in a can.
It's. I don't want to say who on air because I don't want to air their business, but I know somebody who died because of energy drinks when they were 24 years old, dropped dead at work.
Wow, that's crazy. That's just so mad. Well, you don't see that many people drinking them over here. What you do see is people in the like skaters in the States named Kyle drinking them on TV all the time. But yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the draft as much as we do. Tomorrow, everybody can be a winner, depending on what you're looking at. It's an exciting time in the NFL. We got Montana and David in about an hour and a half, kicking off, talking about the NBA playoffs. So make sure you don't miss that. And I'm sure you'll get, if you follow us on Facebook, I'm sure you'll get some wild reactions from me during the draft.
Yeah, definitely. And also from our reaction shows, which we'll be filming after the draft as well.
Absolutely.
Obviously. Yeah. And if the Cowboys don't draft an interior offensive lineman, I'll send a video of me like just screaming.
They're drafting a punter in round 1. All right. Well, when you end up with Spencer Rattler in round 2, I wanted you to send me a message. That's because that's my pick.
Everybody's YouTube videos are going to be getting crazy views if the Cowboys take Spencer Rattler at round 1. In round 2, sorry.
Yeah, if they take him in round 1, that'd be wild as fuck. But yeah,
that's probably down with a deal with Dak Prescott going somewhere if it's round 1.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.